Cabinet has since endorsed and supported 60 of the 73 recommendations from the report. Only 9 were not approved and 3 were noted. The various departments will provide a fuller briefing on the areas that were noted and not approved. Of course, also Cabinet on item 15 took a decision on Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, referred to as GFIP. Cabinet noted the report on the GFIP or Gauteng e-tolls, particularly the report as led by the task team, led by Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula. A final decision on the recommendation of the task team on GFIP, as contained in the report, will be made in the new year by Cabinet. In short, whilst the matters were discussed, there was no finality reached by Cabinet. Definitely, Cabinet will reach finality on this matter in its next meeting in the new year. The 16th matter is on the beneficiary selection and land allocation policy. Cabinet approved the publication of the new policy for comment. The policy provides for a credible and transparent process for land allocation and beneficiary selection. Notably, it addresses the gender inequity in land allocation and access, and a lack of mechanisms to enable poor communal residents and villagers to access land in case of natural disasters and other emergency situations. On bills, Cabinet approved the publication of the Victim Support Services Bill of 2019 for public comment. The bill provides for integrated and multidisciplinary intervention approach towards the needs of victims of crime and violence. Through this bill, the activities and services by various departments in the justice, crime prevention, and security cluster and the social cluster will be better coordinated as part of a singular value chain. Cabinet also approved the Social Services Practitioners Bill of 2019 to be gazetted for public comment. The bill was developed to expand the regulation of social services practitioners by recognizing that there are both professional and auxiliary levels within the social services occupations. This bill, once it is legislated, will repeal the current Social Services Professional Act of 1978. The Department of Social Development will at a later stage unpack the two proposed bills we have just spoken to. Cabinet approved the submission of the Expropriation Bill of 2019 for public comment. The bill has been enhanced by inputs from the extensive consultation with the public and from different formations. Once passed into law, the bill will provide uniform procedures to be followed when effecting the expropriation. It provides a legal framework for government departments and other organs of state in the three spheres of government to apply uniform land and other infrastructure expropriation procedures. Cabinet approved the publication of the draft Upstream Petroleum Resources Development Bill for public comment. The bill seeks to create an environment that will promote investment into the upstream petroleum sector. It provides guidance on the exploration and production activities that will contribute to economic growth and transformation. The bill also separately provides for the regulation of petroleum resources. It establishes the Petroleum Agency of South Africa, which will make recommendations to the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. Cabinet approved the publication of the Municipal Fiscal Powers and Functions Amendment Bill for public comment. The bill amends the Municipal Fiscal Powers and Functions Act of 2007. It regulates the powers of municipalities to levy development charges in respect of land development applications submitted to the municipality. Development charges are one of the instruments that municipalities can use to finance the development of municipal infrastructure. This enables municipalities to execute their role of providing well-maintained and functioning infrastructure services to unlock economic growth. Cabinet approved the submission to Parliament the Auditing Profession Amendment Bill. The bill amends the Auditing Profession Act of 2005. The bill proposes that the Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors be empowered to subpoena any person with any information required to complete an investigation on improper conduct by auditors. The amendment also empowers the Minister of Finance to determine the maximum amount which can be imposed on an auditor with a guilty finding following a disciplinary hearing. On upcoming events, we only have one event, and that event is the Southern African Development Community Media Awards. We call on the South African media, or the South African media are invited to submit their entries for the 2020 SADC Media Awards competition not later than the 28th of February 2020. Thank you very much that all of you are here. Just make your submissions so that as those that will be checking who should get an award, we are not counted out. Journalists who wish to enter the competition can access more information from the GCIS website. On congratulations, Cabinet extends its congratulations to Miss South Africa Zozibini Tunzi for being crowned Miss Universe 2019. Again, Cabinet extends its congratulations to Restaurant Mosaic for being named the highest-ranking South African restaurant at the annual La Liste World Restaurant Awards in Paris. We also, Cabinet extended its congratulations to the 4,971 new police officers who graduated last week Friday from our police colleges. The new graduates or police officers will be joining the ranks of the SAPS to improve our safety. Cabinet also congratulated the United Kingdom Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and his Conservative Party for winning the 2019 UK general elections last week, and looks forward to further strengthening its relations between the two countries during his tenure. Cabinet also congratulated Amajida, our South African under-20 national soccer team, for their valiant game against Zambia and achieving runners-up at the under-20 COSAFA Cup. On appointments, Cabinet approved the appointments to the Human Resource Development Council of South Africa, which will then be chaired by Advocate Richard Sizani. We have all the names, which I won't read. We will give you all the names for your information, but what matters is that Cabinet has indeed approved the appointments to the Human Resource Development Council of South Africa. The other approval that Cabinet did was approving the board of the Road Accident Fund. Again, the Road Accident Fund board will be made public by the relevant minister. The last approval that the cabinet did was to approve that Miss Nompumelelo Mpumi Mpofu goes to manage as managing director the Airports Company of South Africa. That was the last appointment that the cabinet did in its meeting on Friday. And with that ends our statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. At this point, I'll take questions. Yes, you'll be the first one.
Hi, Minister. It's Michael from the NCA. Three questions. The resuscitation of the war room. Our president himself was part of this war room when he was the deputy president. What is different about this war room to previous war rooms? If we still found ourselves in this situation, what's the difference? Is it going to somehow be more effective or more efficient? Second question is around the photojournalist Shiraz Mohammed. Can Cabinet or government confirm that he is indeed free? And if so, is the government involved in ensuring his safe return to South Africa? Third question is around recent media reports of an organ of state, the State Security Agency, being involved in influencing or verbatim giving statements to what's supposed to be an independent Chapter 9 institution, the Public Protector. Is it of concern to Cabinet that an organ of state is influencing an independent body? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah.
Just two questions on the e-tolls. I don't know if maybe you may have some dates on when the decision will be finalized, and some sort of if you can expand on why the issue is taking so long to finally reach sort of an agreement or a decision, considering dates to come up with a decision that can move back and so on.
Yes.
Or are you going to postpone the decision once again?
Yeah. Can I take from Cape Town Minister before, or you want to respond to this?
Well, why don't we respond to this, then take Cape Town?
Thank you.
Well, let's start with rapport. We fully recognize the importance of renewables. And in this respect, yes, Cabinet said that the two ministers, particularly the Minister of Minerals and Energy Resources, should work with IPPs to ensure that indeed IPPs also play a role in stabilizing our electricity supply. Yes, that we can agree to. Of course, you will know that other matters in relation to the question that you are asking are basically legislated. So whatever it is, whilst we might want to fast track the bringing renewables on our grid, but we should all do so within the ambit of the law. No problem about it. But we recognize that we cannot, as a country, suffer from load shedding when, in fact, you have independent electricity producers that can assist us in dealing with these matters. Yes, Cabinet did express that view, that let's appreciate that there are new or there are independent power producers who can come to the party, who can come to the grid, but also, Cabinet also said it should not only be Eskom that can procure electricity from anybody else. We must make our law to be amenable to other private citizens or even municipalities. By the way, there are municipalities that are now procuring electricity from independent power producers. So indeed, there is a space, quite a critical space and critical role for independent power producers. Cabinet fully agrees with the sentiment of your question. And we believe that with time, the ministers of mineral resources and energy will speak to you on the details of this particular item. The ETOLs, the issue is, what mechanisms would you like to use to pay for the upkeep of your ETOLs or your Gauteng freeways improvement scheme? That was the issue. How would you like, if indeed would you like people to pay, or would you like some other mechanism to be put in place? Now, the Department of Transport has done a lot of work on what are the options available. Now, what we were busy discussing were the most appropriate options, not only for the Gauteng ETOLs, but generally for our road infrastructure improvement in the country. So as we expanded the mandate of the department to look into all these matters of Gauteng ETOLs, and also how do we use whatever mechanism we will agree on to also improve our road infrastructure throughout the country, in our rural provinces, everywhere else. That's why it has taken some time, because the Department of Transport could not only, at first their mandate was to look, how do we fund the ETOLs in Gauteng? Do we reduce what we are now paying, or do we do something else? But with time, it was then added that can you also look on how do we improve our road infrastructure everywhere? And what mechanisms of funding should we be looking at? That is what Cabinet will finalize. We can assure you that when Cabinet meets next time in the new year, it will finalize on this issue. We will give South Africa certainty on what are we going to do with the Gauteng ETOLs, but secondly, we'll also give South Africans an idea on how are we going to improve our road infrastructure throughout the country. So we think that us not rushing on this Gauteng freeway improvement scheme has enabled government to even think beyond Gauteng, to think about Eastern Cape, to think about Limpopo, to think about Free State, Northern Cape, road infrastructure. How do we make our road infrastructure to be traversable throughout the length and breadth of our country, not only in Gauteng. So when we come back to you, after Cabinet has finalized on this matter, I think you'll also be very proud of the options that Cabinet would have agreed on. Again, when will this be finalized? Definitely. It will be finalized in the next Cabinet. In fact, it's just a few matters that remain. But in the next Cabinet sitting, this GFIP matter and linked to improving our road infrastructure throughout the country, I can put my head on the what? On the block that the next Cabinet will finalize this matter. The SSA influencing public protector, it never came before Cabinet. This matter was never before Cabinet. Photojournalist Mohammed, again, is not something that the Cabinet has reflected on. I can only speak as a minister responsible for the media, but it's not a government decision. We welcome. We welcome the release of Mohammed. We will check what it is done to ensure that he comes home safe and sound. But indeed, we can only welcome his release. Energy war room, how different will it be? As we have said, there are now various options that are available. You remember that the Minister of Energy and the Mineral Resources also put before the nation optionalities that are there available to South Africa. So based on that, on those optionalities, we think that the war room can then assist us even more now in ensuring energy supply certainty to the country, so that we don't only, when we think about energy supply, we only think about a particular minister. So Cabinet felt that let's have a team of ministers led by the Deputy President that will be seized with this matter. And again, like we say in our statement, their preoccupation will be how do we ensure electricity supply certainty in South Africa. Of course, the one question was, we have renewables. How do we use renewables as well? But also, in the eventuality of Eskom doing maintenance, as it will do from time to time, to its aging fleet, how do you mitigate against loss of megawatts under those circumstances? One option, use of renewables, but another option is just get some megawatts from somewhere else. So this is what the war room, energy war room, will be looking at, so that at least South Africa will know that whilst we will continue to maintain our fleet, there will be some program of alleviating whatever difficulties that we will encounter on energy loss as we do this maintenance. Secondly, as we deal with the structural defects on our new plants, what then do we also do so that businesses and households do not suffer as we attend to the defects of Medupi and Kusile? So broadly, I won't say what will be the difference between this war room and the other war rooms, because I was not part of any. But all I know from where government sits is that let's have more colleagues assisting the two ministers that are in the energy sector in ensuring that there is energy supply certainty in the country. So that's all that I can say in relation to the rationale for the establishment of the energy war room.
Thank you, Minister. Can I take Cape Town?
I first have a request or even a command, Minister. Please take your head off the block. We don't want to lose you if anything happens. So if you can't have it at the next meeting. But then the bills that Cabinet have approved are very important bills. When will they be published? Is there any immediate access to them available? I mean, I don't want to ask each of them, but if we can have publication date, that'd be good. And then third, I was surprised to see Cabinet congratulating the Conservative Party as such. To the best of my knowledge, Cabinet does not function on that level. And if so, the party of which most of Cabinet is comprised, to the best of my knowledge, belongs to the Socialist International, which the Labour Party belongs to. And as far as Mrs. DeWitt goes, my guess would be the Liberal Democrats. So since when is Cabinet involved in party politics on the right of the spectrum?
Good morning, Jan Carter, News 24. Mr. Can you perhaps elaborate on the reasons for the re-establishment of the National Security Council and would sabotage at Eskom's borders be something that is looking to? Thanks.
Yeah, that's in my agenda.
Okay, thank you. The next one, I think you said 4.
In follow up about the previous questions from about the electricity crisis, I just want to be clear. Mr. Haber, Eskom's chief operating officer, Jan Overholder, says he has a need for about 5,000 megawatts to give him space to do the maintenance that is necessary. Up to now, there are huge industrial companies in South Africa who generate electricity for their own use, who has excess capacity, who are not renewables. But they have also always been offered their excess capacity to help South Africa, to help Eskom. Are they also in the running? Do they also, is there any legal impediment remaining? Up to now, they weren't allowed to, in order to protect Eskom's monopoly. Is there still any legal impediment preventing them, preventing the grid operators from using that capacity? And secondly, last week's events, the shortage during load shedding is ever increasing. It was last week the biggest ever, and it was a huge leap from the previous. If we don't, government has been trying to stop this, to reverse this trend since 2008 for 11 years, and it's always increasing. If we don't change this trend, we will face a total blackout. Cabinet discussed this question. What is government's thinking about this?
Good morning, Minister Paul Bekiak. Morning, Minister Paul Bekiak from Bloomberg. Is there any indication when Mr. Durrett will actually take up his position? Has the date been set? It's earlier than January the 15th. Then, secondly, the land reform report. Will that report be made public, and will it indicate the 16 recommendations that Cabinet's approved of? Then on the Upstream Petroleum bill, when will that be published and for public comments, and will that include a free carry, what is called a free carry of around 20%? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister.
Maybe, Paul, if I was trying to write profusely what all colleagues were raising, but then I was disappointed by my pen. We will let's come back to Paul, but we will answer what we quote. The bills. I don't think that there's any difficulty because the bills are there. They can be put on our website.
They have to be gazetted.
They have to be gazetted, yes. The only means of making them public is gazetting them. So since Cabinet has agreed that they be put for public comments through a mechanism called gazetting, yes, they will be gazetted soon because there is now a decision by Cabinet. We don't think that should be a difficulty. Now, you are one of the people that we interact with at the level of the economy as a country, or one of the countries is the UK. And we can assure you that UK, like any other trading partner, we would like to maintain our relationship with the UK. That will then explain our statement, which we say in our statement, that we congratulate the new Prime Minister and, of course, his party. Now, as government, you don't congratulate only those that you ideologically agree with. You congratulate even those that you might not agree with ideologically. So it's in the nature of the business we are in to congratulate countries that have gone for elections and people who have been elected by their own citizens. So in that atmosphere, when within that ambit, we have congratulated Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party. So we don't think that there is anything sinister in us doing so. We have always done so. We have always congratulated even our own countries in the continent who go for elections and elect leaders outside of the continent. So it's not something new. The National Security Council, we have had the National Security Council. That's why I was saying it's the re-establishment. We have had the National Security Council up to, if I'm not mistaken, up to 2014, chaired by the President, bringing together all our security players, the ministers. The good part is that, of course, the President will then have, as the Commander-in-Chief of our armed forces, will then have access to security matters domestically and internationally, so that you don't sit as a president and there are all these security threats and you are not aware of. So this, him chairing the National Security Council, having been re-established, will make our president to have what we normally say in government, line of sight on matters security, whether domestic or international. So that is the idea. And we cabinet fully agrees that our president must have line of sight on security matters, be they domestic, be they international. On the electricity supply, yes, there are private companies that have excess electricity to what they need, and they also generate. We have got mines and others. Can we allow the incoming chief executive officer, we say in our statement, the chief executive officer, one of the things that he'll have to do, and he knows this, and he has already spoken to some of these matters, Mr. Director, is to stabilize electricity supply in the country. Of course, his main focus will be ESCOM. But is there any other board, are there any other bodies that he can work with to stabilize this electricity supply in the country? By all means. So we don't think that we must tie his hands before he even resumes his work. Let the incoming CEO come in, appraise himself of who's who in the zoo of electricity supply and who he can work with to ensure that there is electricity supply certainty in our country. So if he would like to look at other people who are private and there are legal implications on this, in this direction, he will go to his board and say, can we do something about it? But definitely we believe that he will do everything in his power to save us from load shedding and, as others have said, and a calamity of a total shutdown of our electricity supply. We have every confidence in Mr. Director and the team that he will work with. Of course, we have also, just to assist Mr. Director, government has also appointed this energy war room, again in an effort to ensure that we don't experience load shedding. Do everything in our power to ensure that we are above the curve. We don't experience what we have experienced, let alone a total shutdown on our electricity supply. We wouldn't like to experience that. So that's why the Energy War Room team is appointed by Cabinet, but secondly, the Minister of Public Entity, Mr. Pravin Gordhan, being mandated to speak and negotiate with Mr. Director, starting his appointment early than it was agreed on. We won't say what is early, because that is dependent on the negotiations between the Minister of Public Entities or Enterprises and the incoming CEO. But all I know is that he was supposed to start his work on the 15th of January. So Cabinet said, can you start early? And that early start is dependent on the negotiations between the Minister and Mr. Director. Paul, can we then come back to you? I didn't get your questions. Not that I didn't get them. I was disappointed by my pen. You can come back, Paul, with your questions.
Thank you, Minister. Just quickly, the land reform reports will that be made public, and will you indicate the recommendations that have been approved or disapproved or so? And then the Upstream Petroleum bill, if you know any details about it, such as will it include free carry options, which is a type of incentive for people to invest and that. And then finally, sorry, just to add on the last one, President Ramaphosa's, I think, an unprecedented number of pardons for people in prison at the moment, 13,000, I believe. Did Cabinet discuss it all? Did he inform Cabinet? Because I'm sure a lot of those people are reformed, however, it proves that a lot of them are not. 14,000 is a lot of people to give pardons to, which is supposed to be under exceptional circumstances. Could you please give some comment on that too, please?
Paul, you'll know there are line functions matters that then goes to the President for signing off. definitely I can assure you that the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services has been working with the President on this matter. Again, as the Minister Lamula has said, informed by our jurisprudence, the decisions were taken. Informed by our jurisprudence. By the way, not all decisions needs approval by cabinet. There are some line function decisions that the President works with the relevant ministry. In this instance, I can assure you that on the pardons, first, the President has stuck to the law of the country. Secondly, the President has worked with the relevant Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Minister Lamula. In fact, Minister Lamula is on record having explained the modalities and the rationale behind these pardons. It's not the first time, by the way, that people have been pardoned in our country, Paul. We have had various presidents who have also used their constitutional prerogative to pardon people who are incarcerated. So there's absolutely nothing that needs to be frowned upon in the president pardoning some people. It gets done from time to time. We are one country that does the pardoning. There are many other countries that also do the pardoning from time to time. With us, I think it came on a day that is very important, a day of reconciliation, where the president did make the pardons. So we also need to reconcile with one another. And as you'll also know, people who get pardoned are in the main people that have also shown that they are pardonable. That's what our law says, that they are pardonable. The land reform reports, the 60 that we are agreeing to and the 9 that we are opposed and the 3, can we agree that the relevant departments will speak on these matters? But I don't think that there is anything amiss because those are public documents. We can make those areas where we agree with the report available. So, through the relevant ministry, we'll speak to them. We'll speak to the Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform that, yes, as agreed by Cabinet, can we then make available the 60 areas where we agree with the recommendations, of course, the others, because like we have said, Paul, whilst the coordinating body is the Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform, but the Land Reform report touched on many other departments. That's why the interministerial team on land, led by the Deputy President, asked all departments to make their inputs on this matter. And many departments have done so. It was a collation of departmental inputs that arrived that, yes, we are agreeing with 60 of the recommendations and not agreeing with 9 and noted 3. But having said that, we can make those that we agree on available. We'll speak to the minister responsible, Minister Togotiti, that we make them available. But the explanation on the 9 of where we disagree, we have said in our statement, the relevant departments will then speak to South Africa at the earliest opportunity, which are the 9 areas and why they are disagreeing and why they are noting the 3 areas. On pieces of legislation, Paul, I will not be an expert. All that I will say is that we will request the relevant minister to speak on the issues that you have raised, issues of free carry options. We will request the Minister to speak to that matter as you have raised it in this press conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we are on our last round. Thank you. Yeah. And then you at the back.
Minister, if I understand it correctly, Cabinet has decided that municipalities and other users can now buy electricity directly from RTPs. But there's also the matter of companies, especially mines and so forth, that want to generate electricity for own use, and there are restrictions on that which are not yet in Eskom's mandate to change. Did Cabinet also take a position on relaxing those restrictions on generating electricity for own use?
Maybe before, there are certain issues, I've said there are certain issues that cannot be tackled because of legal implications. Now, we have said that as the new incoming CEO comes in, if he believes together with his advisors that we can do something around the legal difficulties on these matters, it will be up to him. And he will indeed do the necessary consultations with those private people who like to generate for own use, but also if they have extra capacity of electricity that is in excess, what do we do with that electricity? Can we put it on the grid? So we are saying, let's, as cabinet, we didn't want to be operational. Because we still have a person who still has to come in, look into all those matters, and also speak to professionals. We are not professionals. Therefore, we could not have come with solutions. All that we agreed on was the broad parameters. The person will be coming in, the CEO, Andre, the writer, can he be supported to ensure that South Africa has certainty on electricity supply? Where he sources electricity beyond Eskom, we believe that he will work with professionals who are quite knowledgeable on these matters. And as our chief advisor and CEO, he'll be able to advise the minister who will then be able to advise cabinet. But we are amenable to us as South Africa doing everything in our power to ensure energy supply or electricity supply certainty. So that's all that we're saying.
Thank you.
And I'm not spinning.
Yes.
Mr. Minister, Roy Kane from Moneyweb. Just in answering the previous questions on the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, you indicated that the decision that would ultimately be taken would be wider than just the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project and would involve other provinces in the road network. The task team that is appointed by under the leadership of the Transport Minister to come up with options to the details in the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project. My question, therefore, is what informed the discussion that goes into a broader decision about South Africa's road network and is not restricted only to the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project?
Thanks. Can I take the last round also in Cape Town, Minister?
Yeah. Why don't we answer this one before? No, there is not decision. Let's first start there. There will be a decision when cabinet takes a decision. All that we were just alerting you to is that yes, we're dealing with GFIP, but indeed the decision that cabinet might ultimately arrive at might go beyond GFIP. So when we come with that report in our next, after our next cabinet, bring back that question. We will explain it. We will explain. In fact, you might even understand why cabinet felt that let's be broader than just GFIP. But let's come to that question after Cabinet has taken a decision.
Thanks. We're taking the last round, Cape Town.
Thank you. My question arises from your answer, or actually from the formulation of Antoinette's question, because I didn't understand it that way. But if she is correct, and Cabinet has given the green light for local authorities or provinces to procure energy, then surely you know that there has been a letter from our Premier, Mr. Windy, and I believe also that our Mayor, Mr. Plato, has asked whether the Western Cape and Cape Town can procure liquid gas energy, which they've already signed for. It's just a matter of getting the go-ahead from central government. Would that be under any sort of consideration at the moment, whether the liquid gas option for the Western Cape is on the table?
Let me answer again. In our pursuit of energy supply certainty in the country, and maybe it will be good that the two ministers face the media on these matters. Cabinet indeed will support any means that will come from the Ministers of Mineral and Energy, any recovery plans on energy from the Minister of Public Enterprises, but also any efforts that will come from the incoming CEO regarding this particular matter. If there are any inhibitors on us utilizing all available means at our disposal on energy, we believe the incoming CEO will say, here are inhibitors. We'll go to the minister and say, here are inhibitors. Also, of course, we'll go to the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources and say, here are inhibitors, and here are legislative inhibitors. This is what we are proposing we do. So we are quite certain as Cabinet that we will not be averse to removing any inhibitors to us optimizing on the use of available energy resources in the country, informed by the broader energy options and energy policy document that is before us. So we are saying that, yes, this is work still at hand, but on principle, Cabinet will not be averse to all of us using any available options to maximize on electricity or energy supply in the country. Where there are inhibitors, by all means, we will have to face up to those inhibitors.
Thank you very much, Minister. We've come to the end of the whole Cabinet briefing for the year. And thank you very much, and have a nice Christmas and peaceful one.
We have had a wonderful, that's now this for, we will not be expecting any questions after this statement. We have had a wonderful working relationship with the media this year, and rest assured that we would like to keep it that way moving forward next year and the years beyond the next year, that we continue with this wonderful relationship that we have built over years. So again, from myself, as Pumla has said, we wish you a wonderful festive season as our colleagues in the media fraternity. We will remain available to answer any questions. If there are any issues that might arise after this press briefing, we will still be servicing you. But please also give us time at least to enjoy our Christmas and our New Year as well. With those words, thank you and thank you. And we thought that perhaps with the festive season underway, that you might not be as big as you have been coming to this presser. But again, we have come in your numbers, which shows that you really appreciate the work that government is doing in keeping the nation informed. And we can assure you, there is no way we can keep the nation informed outside of your good work. You are the conduits of the messages that government will want to put outside there. So we really appreciate that you have been here, you are here, and we can assure you that we will continue to strengthen our relationship between government and the media fraternity from time to time. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you very much. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Invite me to your Happy New Year celebrations.
Speaking about us. Just get from, because I think sometimes the minister struggles. So I don't know whether mine is clean. Yeah, mine is clean.
That's why